Hi and welcome to Giggles and Yarn, my crochet channel. This is Nelly from South Africa. Welkom by Giggles en Gare. Bienvenue à toutes et chacun. For this super easy, super fun elf Christmas slipper, I use cherry red, double knit yarn, a tiger lime, chunky yarn, and 4 strands of double knit white fluffy yarn. It's a normal yarn, but it's bending and curling because I've used it for another project, a PhD, a project half done in the past, and I've undone it and now it's naturally curly. But I'll put a link in the description box below for you to see how to make a normal yarn furry, and then with a little pom-pom, which I'm actually going to replace with a bow before I give it away as a present. So it's for 2 to 3 year olds, 14 centimeters across. And so let's start with a 5mm hook and a double knit, 1 strand double knit yarn. And chain 20. It measures 14 centimeters, and towards the side here it's going to be 16. So it will easily fit a 2 to 3 year old child to 2.5, 24 to 30 months basically. And then also, of course, it is 5.5 inches. So let's add 1 more chain, and now we make single crochets all the way down, just normal single crochet into each stitch. So now I've finished row 1, and I made my last single crochet into that first chain we made, and now chain 1. Then turn your work and make 1 single crochet in each stitch, and I'll meet you at the end. So you make your first single crochet in this corner space, one single crochet in each stitch until the end. So I've finished the end of row 2, and we still have 20 stitches. So now at the end of row 2, chain 1 and turn your work. Then in the corner here you make 2 single crochets only in the first stitch. 2 single crochets into the first stitch of row 2. Here is your beginning tail, so you know that the increase side is always on this side. So this is the increase side that we're making now. Yeah, this is the slipper, and the toe goes, increases towards the outside. So it's one increase in row 3, 5 and 7. Each have one increase in the beginning stitch. So that is what we just made. Then continue just making one single crochet into each other stitch of row 3 until the end. There's only row 1, only the first stitch that gets an increase, and I'll meet you at the end. So I've finished row 3 and I've made my last stitch, my last single crochet into the last stitch of row 2, and at the end of row 3 chain 1, turn your work, and now you can see we're here where the tail is of the chain that we started here at the beginning. So on this side where the tail is, we're going to have a straight edge upwards. That's the straight edge part, like this. Okay, so you can always remember this is that side. So now just make one single crochet into that corner stitch, and then one single crochet all the way to the end for row 4, and I'll meet you on the other side. So I've reached the end of row 4, and now here where we reach the last 2 stitches, remember that you need to crochet both, because it would be very easy to just stick your needle in there, to insert your hook in there and treat this as one stitch, but in reality there are 2 stitches here. There's your one single crochet and your increase stitch are both in here. You need to find them. You need to see, okay, there's my one, there's 2 loopies, 2 loopies there, so there's my one, and then this little lump here in the corner, that's another stitch. So now at the end of row 4 we have 21 stitches, and chain 1 and turn your work. Now this is the increase side, so once again we are going to make 2 single crochets into this very corner space. So there's your chain 1, and there's the space where you're going to work. So make 2 single crochets into this space, and now continue with row 5, making 1 single crochet into each stitch until the end. And then when you get to the end here of row 5, you will make 1 chain and turn your work and come back all the way, and once again you will make an increase on this side for row 7, go back all the way with single crochets, chain 1 and come back for row 8 and finish row 8 on the increase side, and row 8 will be the last row. So we'll just go back and forth as we've done before, end on the increase side, and you'll just keep on repeating the rows as we've done them now. Repeat row 1 and row 3 until you have a total of 8 rows. And you'll see, if you look at the little slipper, that you'll have basically like 5 sets. It's more like 4.5 sets, but coming and going forms one little set. And we'll finish on the increase side. Row 8 will be your last row, like I said, and let's continue making these 2 sets to the end, and I will meet you on the increase side at the end of row 8 so that we can end off together. So now I've reached the end of row 9, and we have 23 stitches. So we started with 21 chains, continued with 20 stitches, and with every increase we added 1, and we added 3 increases in row 3, 5 and 7, and so we have 23 stitches at the end of row 9. And we're going to chain 1 and cut our yarn, but you need to leave a long piece of yarn for one of your panels. So you're going to make 2 exactly the same panels. You're going to repeat the one we just made, and for your second, for one of your panels you need to leave a long tail so you can sew them up together. So I'm leaving a long tail and pull through. So let's work these 2 panels together. There's your 2 panels. So here's our 2 panels, and it's just about 2.1 inches and 5.2 centimeters in height. And remember, we started with 14 centimeters and 5.5 inches. So we're going to have to put 2 right sides together. So remember, this is where you started your tail, where you started your chain. Those are our tails. So this is our right sides up. So we're going to have to put one of these on top of the other one. And this our long yarn. So I have it on top of each other now, and I have my long yarn here. So take your needle and thread it, and we'll just start sewing up. So from this side you just go clearly through both loops every time. So I tested and tried it a bit, and what I noticed makes a good effect is to just come back right in between the sets every time, and you're going to see what I mean. So it's basically on the line every time, but you can sew it together any way you like. And we keep going around at the bottom and on the other side, and leaving this part at the top open. So just keep going around. and I'll meet you on the other side here. So come around. So now I've sewn the two panels together and I've turned it inside out, and now the right side's on the outside. So now you can put your stitch markers in. You count 8 stitches from this side, from the increased side, the front. That's the front side, the beginning increased side, and mark 8 stitches, and on the other side mark 8 stitches, and then count from here 1 2 3 4. From stitch number 8, count 4 stitches and mark the 4th stitch on each side, and then you are left here with if you include these back stitches, you're left here with 11 stitches. So now we're going to work from here to this point, and then we're going to work the pointy toe at the front. So now let's start with this sewing onwards, and then after that we'll make the ankle. So insert your hook exactly in the space where the stitch markers are, and take your yarn and pull up a loop right through both sides, and then you can just make a chain. Now you go into that same stitch, but going only into the front loop of the stitch on the panel facing you, and then go into the back loop of the other side of the stitch of the other side, front loop of the one side and back loop of the other, and make a slip stitch, and do the same for all 4 stitches until you reach the next stitch marker. Front loop, back loop, loop, back loop, and last one, front loop, back loop. So now we continue on from here. Where this stitch marker is where the last stitch is of the actual pointy toe part that you're going to work. So you can remove the stitch markers and we'll work the toe part. So insert your hook in that space where the stitch marker was, only one stitch of one panel, one side, the side closest to you, and make a single crochet, and make 1 single crochet all the way around until you get to the other side, and I'll meet you here. 1 single crochet in each stitch. So I've gone all the way around with single crochets, and I've come to the part here where these slip stitches were made between these stitches. So into this last stitch here, I make my last single crochet, and then immediately I turn and I go back into the same stitch on the other side. Pull tight and insert your hook there. Now slip stitch and chain one. So for this is not the heel, this is the toe part. For this toe part we have 16 stitches around. So now we've made our slip stitch plus one chain, and now we're going to do a decrease. So for the very first stitch you make a single crochet, and then you make a front loop single crochet decrease. So we're just going to insert our hook in this front loop of the next stitch, and then insert your hook into the front loop of the following stitch, and yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and that's your front loop single crochet decrease. Now we're going to follow this sequence all around. One single crochet and one decrease. So it's one single crochet, and then it's the front loop only, insert your hook, bend your hook and insert into the next front loop, yarn over, pull through 2 directly, yarn over, pull through 2. Again, one single crochet, and then a decrease. And again, and so I've gone all the way around following the sequence, one single crochet and one decrease, and now I'm back in the middle and I have one open stitch here. So I'm going to single crochet it, and directly I go into the next open stitch here and make a slip stitch, then chain one. So now we repeat this pattern of this row for 2 more rows. So continue doing exactly the same, one single crochet and one decrease for the next 2 rows, and I'll meet you back here. So now I've completed the last 2 decrease rows. So altogether we now have 3 decrease rows. So we had one single crochet all around, then 3 decrease rows, and now we are here. I've already made my chain, and now all we're going to do is we're going to do 6 single crochets all around. So we'll do our first one directly in the stitch where we made our slip stitch, and 1, and there's our second one, and 2, and there's our third one, and 4, and 5, and 6. Now we can end off and leave a long tail. So make a chain. Let's do it the same as we always did. In this stitch we make a slip stitch. This is what you've done all the way, and now one chain. Now leave a long tail because we're going to work it around now, and pull it through. Take your yarn needle and thread your needle with your tail, and all we're going to do is go in and out our stitches all around. Don't catch any yarns, make it clear stitches because we're going to pull this tail. Just into every stitch around, gentle weaving. Now I've reached the end, and now we can just pull the whole yarn tight, the whole tail tight, and a bit more. I'm going to just work it into this front one as well, see if it helps. Yeah, I'm going to just catch this one as well and pull again. Yeah, now we finally have it closed. Well done. Now we can just sew this away. Just going to take it through there. And then I'm going to come and bring it back to the front. Right where I want the bell or the pom-pom. And I'm just going to leave a little bit of a tail here so that we can just sew the pom-pom or the bell onto, just like that. Okay, next we're going to work the ankle. So this brings us to the end of part 1 of our how to crochet a baby elf Christmas slipper. So we've done the 2 panels, the base part of the slipper plus the pointy toe, and for part 2 we will do the ankle with the scallops and the fur as well as the pom-pom. So please come and crochet along for part 2 to finish this delightful little cheerful slipper. Until next time, tot volgende keer. A bientôt!